Hey guys, Sue's here. Welcome back to our channel and our What's for Dinner Easy Keto Comfort Food recipes. This week's video is actually inspired by my mom and dad. They would have celebrated 51 years married this past weekend. Unfortunately, our mom is no longer with us, but I still wanted to keep the memory alive. So follow along if you want to see some of their favorite inspired foods. I wanna catch the wave. For starters, I made a kind of mock lima beans and ham. This is one of my dad's all-time favorite meals. And although he's not a fan of cauliflower, I think that this was as close as it could possibly get in a keto version. So to start with, I got a ham shank. This one is about 2 pounds, I think. And then I just got 2 bags of this cauliflower. You wanted it to equal up to about 4 cups. I have 2 bay leaves, half a teaspoon of nutmeg, a teaspoon of onion powder in this little container. I'm just gonna put all of this straight into a crock pot on high. And I actually let this cook a lot longer than it says that you need to because I really wanted that ham hock to cook down and give flavor to everything and be tender enough to shred. But you just put everything in there, and then I poured some bone broth on top of it. I ended up going back later, I think, and adding a little bit more bone broth to this. But to start with, I just put in 3 cups. And this is based on a recipe by Christina Kerp over at the Castaway Kitchen, and I will link it down below in the description box. After it cooked on high for like 4 to 6 hours, I went ahead and pulled the ham out. And then I'm just going to scoop out the majority of the juice and all of the cauliflower and put it into a blender. And I'm going to add a little bit of ham on top of this and puree it, and then add it back to the mixture. I'm just going to blend it enough so that it still has some texture in it. I don't want it to be like all the way liquid, but I want it to more resemble lima beans. I was going to make some keto cornbread muffins with this recipe, but the hurricane winds were already starting when I was cooking this, and power was kind of going in and out on me, so we didn't do that other part. But I think this meal would be really great, and I had originally planned to make keto cornbread muffins with it, but I was in such a rush for the hurricane that I did not. So other than this blending, which looks pretty tedious, it's a really easy recipe. And the final result was a big hit. My husband absolutely loved this. I ended up only tasting a spoonful because I'm not even a fan of lima beans and ham. But like I said, one of my daddy's favorites, so there you go. And of course, you got to cover it with black ground pepper, which reminds me of my dad's big, huge plates of ham and lima beans that he would fix. He doesn't even like spicy foods, but he loves covering his fried eggs and his lima beans with black ground pepper. Next up, we have these spicy Italian keto stuffed peppers. These are inspired by my mom, as she used to make stuffed bell peppers all the time and loves them. Now, these are made with just spicy Italian sausage. This is from a recipe from Perfect Keto. I'll link it down below. I was a little skeptical at first of just using the spicy sausage and not a beef mixture like my mom used, but these turned out so good. So to start with, I just put a little bit of avocado oil in a skillet and put my Italian sausage. I just used a roll of the Jimmy Dean one, and I'm using my cool fancy new tool that I love. That will also be linked down below in the description box. It's the best little, I think maybe I spent $5 on it on Amazon, gadget that I've ever bought for my kitchen. Absolutely in love. After I browned the sausage, I went ahead and added minced onion. That's just 1 small onion that I chopped up in a little chopper. And then I'm also adding a cup of cauliflower rice. The recipe called for mushrooms, but I don't like the texture of mushrooms, so I did not put any in mine. After that cooks down some, I'm adding my seasoning, which is a combo of a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon pepper, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning. And to that, I'm adding 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. And I'm just going to mix that and let that cook down for a while with the vegetables. And then I'm going to add some chicken broth to that. Added a half a cup. And while that cooks down, I'm going to take some green bell peppers, and I just washed and sliced them in half, and I put those on a cookie sheet lined with nonstick foil. And now that my cauliflower rice is all tender and my sauce is cooked down and reduced some, I am just going to add some grated Parmesan cheese to it. This is a half a cup, and just incorporate that in really well, and then go ahead and start filling my peppers. Now, I did preheat the oven to 350 degrees already for this. And now I'm just gonna fill my peppers up. Once I have them all filled, I'm gonna top it with mozzarella cheese. There is a measurement in the recipe for this, but I didn't measure because I really don't need that negativity in my life. I love cheese and I live in a world that I eat unlimited, unmeasured amounts of it. But if you are watching your macros really carefully, like you should be probably if you're doing keto, then, be better than me, then you'll want to check the recipe and measure everything out. Anyway, after I get done putting copious amounts of cheese on this, I baked them in the oven for about 25 minutes. And when they came out, this is what they looked like. And of course, I ate all of that spilled crunchy cheese immediately. And it was so good. And here you go, I'll plate it up, guys. This is definitely one of my new favorite recipes, and I will be adding it as a staple to our household meals. Next up is another one of my mom's favorites, which is grilled pork chops. I would have made these outside, but seeing as I was trying to rush to cook all the rest of my week's meals in one evening before the hurricane hit, trying to clear out the refrigerator and get everything done, I cooked these on a George Foreman with some roasted radishes. Radishes were one of my mom's favorite foods. My granddad actually kept them planted in the garden every single year for her, and I remember her just like getting them out the dirt and just rinsing them real quick and eating them straight and just raw. I've never really given them a chance, so I had my husband go buy some. He bought a very small amount, and I just scrubbed them really well, trimmed off the sprouted ends, and then I quartered them. We just did a small amount to start with because I didn't really know how I would like them, or him. He had never had them either. Turns out they were a huge success. We both really, really liked them. My mom would be totally proud of that. So after I quarter all of the radishes, I just put them in a little dish, and I think I put olive oil on them. I could have put avocado oil. Whichever kind of oil or fat that you want to add to them, just pour that on top and coat them. Make sure all of them have a coating on them. After that, I just put them on a cookie sheet with some nonstick foil and put a good amount of sea salt on them. And I baked these in the oven at 400 to start with for 30 minutes. While those were working, I went ahead and got started on my pork chops. So I just took 4, these are kind of thick, boneless pork chops. And on a plate, I added some olive oil. And then I'm just going to coat the pork chops in the oil. And then I'm going to add just a little dry rub that I put together. It's just smoked paprika, regular salts, and ground black pepper. And I'm going to just rub that on both sides of my pork chops. And then I'm just cooking them 2 at a time. Just making sure I've got the sides and all really seasoned well here. I will be cooking them for about 10 minutes to start with, and then I will be using a meat thermometer because I don't take any chances with chicken or pork. Oh, almost forgot the tray. Good call. All right, once I got them to between like 167 and 170 on the inside, you see here I'm checking all the different areas because they just weren't done enough for me. So I went ahead and flipped them over and let them cook for a few minutes longer. And then after that, I think I got them to a nice 170-ish temperature on the inside, and I was happy with that. So I plated them up. Now I went ahead and took the radishes out and shuffled them all up so that they could get evenly browned, and then I popped them back in the oven for another 15 minutes. And here you go, all plated up, guys. This was so good, and this was the last meal I cooked before the hurricane, and these pork chops kept us satiated through the storm. I snacked on them like they were a bag of chips. For our final meal of the week, this is one of my dad's favorites, barbecue chicken. And here I served it over garlic mashed cauliflower instead of potatoes. He's not a cauliflower fan, but I'm sure he would approve of this sauce. So to start with, I took some chicken breast, and I went ahead and split mine so they'd be smaller. And putting some sea salt on them. You saw I preheated the oven to 350. And then some ground black pepper, and then also some rotisserie chicken seasoning, which is like onion salt, onion powder, garlic powder, all of that good stuff mixed together. I'm going to go ahead and pop them into the oven without it preheating because that's just how I roll and I don't have patience for that. And I'm going to cook this for 30 minutes while I make the sauce. So this sauce was so freaking delicious. This barbecue is from Savory Tooth. I will link it down below. I do not like mesquites, and this is so good. It tastes similar to a Canadian sauce called Diana Gourmet that my aunt introduced me to that I absolutely love. It's just a can of tomato sauce, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, a half a cup powdered swerve, 2 tablespoons Worcestershire, tablespoon of smoked paprika, a teaspoon of garlic powder, and half a teaspoon of salt. I added 1/4 teaspoon ground cayenne to give it a little bit of spice, and just put it all in the pot and cooked it on down. Once it was reduced to the thickness I liked, I just poured the whole thing right on top of this chicken, because when this was done, I knew I would just scoop the chicken out and then I could just freeze the rest of the sauce and it would be even more flavorful after having the chicken cooked in it. So that's what I did. I froze it and I'll use it next time. Popped this back in the oven for like another 25 minutes, I think. And while it was cooking, I just went ahead and put this garlic mash. Like I said, it does have a little bit of cornstarch in it, so watch the macros on it. I didn't eat any of this. I just had the chicken, but my husband, who doesn't need to be, I'm keto for my blood sugar, and he doesn't need to watch it like that. So I fixed this more for him. And there you go, guys, all plated up. So I hope you enjoyed this week's What's for Dinner easy keto comfort food recipes inspired by my mom and dad, and my keto versions of some of their favorite foods. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up, please. Comment down below any recipe ideas. And if you're new here, please make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you can catch our What's for Dinner series every single Sunday. Bye, guys.
Give me your pretty, give me your messy, give me your happy, give me your sad. I may be staying, I may be going, I may be